Hello and welcome back to reveurovision, where we're looking at the second half of the second semi-final and judging how we think they're doing in the rehearsals and whether we think they'll be making it through to the final. Just to recap, we're going through Georgia, Albania, Portugal, Bulgaria, Finland, Latvia, Switzerland and Denmark. So to delve right in with Georgia, now this wasn't any of our favourites, I don't think. Jack, do you think they've improved with the staging?
Nope, absolutely not. It is so boring, and they could have at least spiced it up with some nice sunsets or something, or some nice like weather things. I don't know, but it is just. It's on. Why are Georgia in this? Like, genuinely, our Georgia do not seem to be trying anymore at Eurovision. It's just a piss take. The whole thing, it is an absolute insult to the acts that do show up. And it's an insult to the acts from Georgia who do want to represent them at Eurovision. Like, what are they playing at? They need to sort it out or step away from Eurovision, because it is an absolute joke. The one benefit is this is one song that others don't have to compete with. Essentially, yeah, there are 17 songs in this semi, only 16 are vaguely competitive, because this might as well not be there. That's how bad it is. So it is just get out of the lineup. There's no way this is going through.
Got a bit of a slating there. James, are you in agreement?
Yeah, pretty much, to be fair. I mean, the only caveat is I did see that in the background, I think they've got some cloud graphics, maybe.
Oh, wow. Cloud graphics.
Yeah, I know. It's groundbreaking, I know.
I think it's that the lyrics also come up on its top at one point. I'm like,
oh my God, no, that's so much. Stop. They've thrown the kitchen sink at this. Can't believe it. Wow.
I mean, yeah, to be honest, it's like trying to, bring back a dead horse. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's, I think it's doomed from the start, to be quite honest, isn't it? I can't see anybody getting behind it at all. Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing more to say, to be quite honest.
Well, yeah, 3 out of 3 there. I also think it's crap, and they've just not bothered trying. It just feels kind of disappointing. It's like, why kind of bother if this is kind of what you're going to do? So, but yeah, like Jack says, I mean, at least it kind of makes it maybe slightly easier for other countries, because there's only actually 16 songs to compete with rather than 17. But moving on to Albania, what do we kind of make of that, Jack?
I mean, I think it will go through. I think it's one of my 10, because again, Albania have qualified with worse than this. I'm sort of I was expecting a little bit more, to be honest. It's just woman in silver dress with sort of just quite dull red smoky cloud things pulsating. That's pretty much it. And that was certainly from the first rehearsal. Maybe when we see a bit more of it, there'll be a bit more to it. And I think it probably does need a little bit more to stand out and do well in the final. I think it probably will go through, because there is nothing else like it in this semi, really. It's like the ethnic ballad. This is, it stands out. But yeah, I think maybe I was expecting maybe a little bit more to the staging. And I'm not entirely sure, if you are going to be there by yourself, you need to have the natural stage presence to pull it off. And that's why I'm trying to think of a good example. That's maybe, I mean, Fuego, she didn't always have the 4 backing dancers. Quite for some portions of the song, it was just her on stage, but it worked because Elena Furera has the charisma to fill the whole arena, and she can do it. Anxhela, I don't think does. So it might come across as a little bit dull. That said, she can sing. I think the juries like it enough to put it through. So yeah, I think it's one of the 10.
1 of the 10 for Jack. James, are you on the same page?
Kind of mixed, to be honest. I like it. I actually really like it. I think, oh God, it's probably going to be a comparison I'll regret. I think it's a bit J-Lo-esque. I quite like it. I think, there's, I maybe I disagree on that, perhaps with Jack, is that I do think she's got some charisma. I think perhaps, though, we need to see the whole song to get that. I think she's one of those, maybe like a bit of a slow burner, but I think it's really dramatic. I think, it gives that sort of feeling of, I think, she's quite powerful. That's the impression I get in the song. And I think the staging and things work well with that. Plus as well, I think she's got quite a cool costume as well, to be fair, when I'm thinking about it now. I mean, everything has pretty much already been said already, to be honest. I can't do much more justice. I just really like it. And I think it will qualify.
Well, I'm going to stick a spanner in the works and say I don't think it's going to qualify. I think the issue I have with it is that it's kind of another silver dress, and we have seen a lot of that in Eurovision. I don't know what it is like. The theme this year just seems to be like, oh, dress as though you're doing a Latin dance and Strictly Come Dancing. It's very good. Yeah, I'm not sure how I kind of feel about it, but I think my issue with it is that because she's on her own, it's a big stage to kind of fill, and there's a lot of kind of instrumental bits. And if she's not really kind of dancing, it'll just kind of really fall flat in those parts. So we'll have to see. I might change my mind if we have more rehearsals and we see her kind of doing something more with it. But yeah, for me, it's not a qualifier. But moving on to Portugal, what do we make of the Black Mamba? No, I love it. What?
All right, calm down. Calm down, madam. Filth in this video. I quite liked it anyway. I thought it was pleasant. And I think they've done a good job of making it interesting. I think with the sort of swirling and sort of blacks and browns and caramel sort of colours in the background, I think look quite interesting. It is very much borderline whether this will go through. And again, as in the other video, I've just realised I've only put 9 down. So this is really, at the end of this, I'm going to put up a 10th one in after I have a bit of a think. I'm really torn about this because I think I would like to see it through. Are people going to get it? Because a lot of the song does have quite a big backstory to it, of it being about a prostitute, and the reason why he sings quite high pitched is because he is the prostitute. He is sort of characterizing the prostitute character, and I don't know if people will get it. I think more people will think it's weird, and just than will understand it. So I'm leaning on the side of it won't qualify, but I would not be offended if it did go through. But yeah, for now, not one of my 10.
A non-qualifier, James, is it going through for you?
I think it will go through, but I don't want it to. I think it's. I mean, I said about this before. I think it's at its basic level boring and mundane. I think there's no real excitement there, and he started singing like that, which doesn't really fill me with much Eurovision. Oh God, I can't talk. Eurovision feeling, and I just think it will attract. Watch the comments flood in. I think it will attract the artsy types, and by that I mean the people who like I like a bit of indie music, but the ones that are like sort of die-hard indie fans. This might attract them because it's that sort of vibe I'm getting from it. But yeah, it's just not for me, which is a shame because I think it could have been a fabulous song, but it just feels like they're a bit bored. And if they're bored, what chance do we stand?
I'm on kind of a similar page to Jack, where I think it'll probably just miss out, because it is so kind of not Eurovision. I don't think it'll kind of get enough votes, but for me, yeah, it doesn't particularly offend me. I wouldn't have an issue if it did go through. But yeah, I just think it's kind of too different to what Eurovision usually kind of is, but not necessarily kind of different in a good way. So moving on to Bulgaria. Now, you two were not a fan. Are you still not a fan, Jack?
I mean, I still think it's quite miserable. I really, really do think it's miserable. They've done a good job of painting the turd, but it's still a bit of a turd for me. And I just, if it has gone up the odds, some people are saying they get winner vibes from it. I would be really quite disappointed if it did win. Not only because there are a lot better songs this year, not only because I think it's quite a miserable song to win after COVID, but also because this is not the song that Bulgaria should win Eurovision with. They've sent pretty much everything. Actually, since their return in 2016, this is their worst entry for me. And it will be really disappointing if this is the one that wins it for them, because I've liked all of their stuff since they came back. And for this to be the one that does what other songs couldn't, I genuinely would be really disappointed with. So it will go through. I don't want it to do that well, to be honest. Oops.
James, is it going on you at all?
No. I think it's definitely not going through. I think it's just as boring now as it was before. I don't really understand it. Sorry, there's another train. I think that the staging looks quite good. It looks interesting, and I like the sort of, I don't know what it is, like looks like an iceberg floating on the stage, and then she has her hand out and there's like water or sand pouring. That looks quite cool. I'm guessing it's sand, like an egg timer type thing. But it's different. But it's done nothing to enhance the song as far as I'm concerned. It still feels like it just doesn't build to anything, and it doesn't stand out for me. And I think that it might be on the cusp. Maybe it'll be just close to qualifying, but it won't qualify in my eyes.
Well, I think it will qualify, and I quite like the staging. I like the kind of sand element. It gives it quite a kind of like contemporary dance feel to it, and I like that they've put her on kind of a platform that isn't kind of your typical kind of like boxy type platform. It's quite kind of slanted, so I think they've kind of elevated the song quite a bit with the staging and made it kind of more interesting to people who might not be kind of usually engaged in that kind of type of music. But yeah, I think it'll go through fine. And moving now on to Finland, which is literally the complete polar opposite to Bulgaria. How do we think they'll do, Jack?
Yeah, no doubt about this qualifying. There's nothing else like it. Copy and paste my comments from the previous video. Nothing else like it. It comes after a pretty drab set of 4. And I mean, I did say top 3 in the semi. I did say at the time the top 3 in the semi was likely. I now think less of that, because I think Switzerland, Bulgaria possibly, or Iceland and Greece will be the top 3. So, I mean, it will do very well, and it will absolutely go through. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, I think it'll stand out.
James, what are your thoughts?
I think it'll stand out, but in my eyes, not for the right reasons. I still really don't like it. I've tried, but as far as I'm concerned, it's just like a shouting match going on stage, and I've got no time for it really. I think there's other performances that should be going through over them. Otherwise, they're just taking up a space that somebody else should have had, in my eyes. I think there's also got that weird, we've seen in the rehearsal, that weird sort of guy dangling as well on the screen behind. I mean, that's a bit like. So I'm just not a fan of it, to be quite honest. And I think, I don't think it's going anywhere near the final in my books.
Well, I think it is going to the final. I think usually at Eurovision, people either kind of genuinely enjoy the rock or want to put it in the final as a kind of mark of rebellion against kind of Euro pop. So I think it'll have no kind of problems there. I think the staging is kind of absolutely mad. It's not dissimilar to what we saw in the national final. I like that because they're not allowed to swear, that they've painted their middle finger red, just as their like small act of rebellion against Eurovision. So yeah, I think people kind of probably quite like that, and yeah, it'll definitely be going through. Moving on to Latvia. Jack, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, that was a noise of exasperation, because I just don't. They could have done more with it, and I think they've sort of copied and pasted what they were going to do last year with Still Breathing, and it's not worked really. And it's going to be a bit too weird, and it's going to feel quite flat after Finland, and it's very, very hard to pull off a green dress. Green is not a good color. It is not a good color. So I think this is going to actually sink quite a lot. And I unfortunately, even though I do like the song, I don't really see a path for this, sadly.
So a non-qualifier for Jack. James, are you on the same page?
Yeah, 100% is not going to qualify. I don't think by any means. It's very flat. I mean, I actually put the original entry at 19, and I would now be struggling to put it at 32. I think it's just the song itself has got no personality to it. They've obviously tried to rip off, I think, Kylie Minogue with the visors on the costumes and just change them to blue and green, which just doesn't work. And just she just doesn't sound like she's really in it when she's performing it. And that, to me, is sort of like, well, why bother if you're not really going to go for it? Yeah, for me, it's a no-go at all, really.
Well, it's 3 out of 3 there because I've also got it down as a non-qualifier. I appreciate that they were doing something different with the green. I like the shade of green, and I think it'll kind of stand out in comparison to all the kind of neon that we're getting from like every other direction. But yeah, it's very... I wasn't a big fan of the song anyway, and I don't think the staging has kind of particularly saved it. And that's kind of... I think also, like, the fact that it's kind of a long dress, for me, it feels like it's a song that needs a short dress. So I don't like... Yeah, I think they've kind of... The staging's basically probably let it down. But, yeah.
To me as well, I'm just looking at it, actually, and I'm fairly sure it's the same type of green, actually, that Iceland are wearing. I'm not 100% sure, but the jumpers look the same colour.
I think the green, the Latvia's green, is a bit darker. It's more like a sort of a pine green, whereas the Iceland green is a bit more of a sort of emerald, I think. So they are a bit different. The Icelandic green pops a little bit more, whereas the Latvia green sort of drowns out slightly. It is definitely a darker shade of green.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, I think the fact that it is a dark green makes it kind of like fade into the background slightly. But yeah, for me, non-qualifier. Now kind of moving on to one of the favourites to win Eurovision, Switzerland. Now, we were kind of mixed opinions of this, kind of thought it was all right, but didn't deserve to be doing as well as it was with the bookies. Are we still on that kind of same page, Jack?
Yeah, I still don't think it's anything special particularly, but the staging has elevated it. The song itself I don't find particularly interesting. And I don't think it's anything special, but staging wise, there's nothing else like it. I mean, yes, Bulgaria does have her box, but by the looks of things, she just sort of walks around it and plonks herself down and then walks around something else. There's nobody else doing like an interpretive dance type thing by the looks of things, which is, yeah, I think will be quite impressive. And also, there's different elements to it. It's like there are different blocks, and then it comes into him close. The camera's really close. And then by the time it moves out again, some of the blocks have disappeared. And you can only see in the first rehearsal footage, that's because people are sort of coming on like a stagehand and then taking it off. So if you don't see that happen, as you will presumably not see it on camera, there's going to be an element of, oh, how have they done that? And it was a little bit like Russia 2016 when he's doing all of his bits and bobs and walking up the wall. You're a bit like, how are they doing that? And it's obviously because there's either people in there or it's automated pushing out sort of see-through coloured blocks for him to walk on. So it's a very, how is this happening type of effect that I think you're going to get, and it will stand out. Again, as I said, it could win the semi. I think there are better songs in this, definitely. There are plenty of songs that I would rather win Eurovision. And I would say that this would be the weakest winner since 2011 if it did win. But there's no doubt about this going through. Absolutely, it's sailing in.
James, are you in agreement?
No, I'm not. I can't see this qualifying in my books.
James, because have you got enough countries to fill your final here?
Well, I have. I have put through 10, and the next one will be going through. But
we've all just been like, no.
But I said it's an awful semi, but it's just... Do you know what? When you're saying about the set, like, yes, it looks different, but to me, it also looks like he's dancing on an IKEA kitchen unit. Like, literally.
It's not a bad thing. IKEA's great. We all love IKEA.
Well, we all love IKEA, but not Eurovision's final. Like, there's a time and a place for an IKEA flat pack and IKEA, I'm getting confused now. Eurovision isn't one of them. No, I just don't like it. I think it's really hyped up and overrated for what it is. I don't think it stands out that much. I just can't get to like it. I mean, I put it down. You remember before, if you've followed our sort of our programs and things, that I put as my number 35, and I stand by that now. I still think it's awful.
Harsh words there from James. Well, I'm kind of in agreement with Jack. I do think the staging has kind of lifted it up. I think, yeah, with the kind of blocks and stuff, it's kind of it'll almost create a bit of like an optical illusion, or we'll kind of be there wondering how they've kind of moved things and blah 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 blah. So I think that'll be kind of, it'll keep people engaged. So I think there's no question about qualifying. I think what it kind of probably deserves is in the final kind of top of the right hand side of the board. I don't think it deserves where it kind of is in the bookies now, but I also don't think it's awful. I think it's kind of an all right effort. But moving on to our last country of the second semi-final, Denmark. What do we make of this one, Jack?
I normally, broadly speaking, the songs that go last in a semi go through. There are exceptions, and I think this will be one of them, because I think it's too out there, and too, it's really hard to connect with, I think, and my feelings about it, something not being quite right about it, still persist. And the staging is very, very similar to how it was at Dansk Melodi Grand Prix. So I'm not, I don't think it's going to go through. But I say that, I have still only got 9 on my list of 10. So come back to me once we've gone through this, and I'll pick my 10th one in the next 2 minutes. But this is definitely not one of the 10.
So not one of the 10 for Jack. James, I think you gave away that it was one of your 10.
Yeah, I know. Spoiler alert. I really actually quite like it. I think you remember in our recent Denmark video, I sort of said I didn't know why I put it as number 8, and I did. Well, I actually, now after watching that, I think it's redeeming itself, which is what I hoped. I think it's really catchy, and I think their performance style seems quite good. And I really like for me, the real selling factor is the graphics and the set and things. It looks really, really cool. And I love the idea of that. It's very 80s, very retro, which I like. And I think that does well at Eurovision. As to how well it will do, though, I'm not sure whether it'll be towards the top of the 10. But nevertheless, I think it stands a fairly good chance. It's a bit different, and I like that about it.
Well, I'm going to change tune and agree with James. I've put it as one of the 10, not because I am a massive fan, but I think it's very kind of retro and nostalgic, kind of niche. And I think that could be appreciated. I mean, I could be absolutely barking mad, and it could be absolutely like dead last in the semi-final. But I don't know why I've kind of changed tune on it, because I haven't particularly done anything different to the national final. But yeah, I just think it's retro, jazzy, and I think it might scrape through. Sorry.
I think so. I think actually one key thing I noticed when I was watching the rehearsal footage of it is that obviously we're watching where some PR person obviously somewhere has stood in the hall and just recorded it, whereas we're not then getting the audio feed from their mics in directly with the music. And I think with them, that will be the key deciding factor as to how well they do, because it sounds a bit pitchy when you listen to rehearsal, but I think hopefully it's all run through the system. I think it'll sound quite good. And I think that will make a massive difference for people maybe who are not so sure about it now as well.
Yeah, I think it kind of stands out as being kind of quite retro compared to the rest of the songs, and especially because kind of the back end of that semi-final bar kind of Finland is quite bleh. So yeah, it's kind of ending on a high, and I think people might kind of go for that. Now, Jack, have you decided on your number 10?
No, this is. I'm just watching
option
now. Okay, I'm torn between. I don't know how long this video is going to go on for, because I'm torn. The Estonia, it's not It is a no. Georgia is a no. Poland is a no. Latvia and Denmark are a no. Which means I think the three that I'm really torn between are Czech Republic, Austria, and Portugal. And I feasibly see all of them going through. Song-wise, the one that should go through is the Czech Republic because it is the best song. The staging is very disappointing. Austria, the staging, having watched it back, is not quite as good as I remember. And the song is not very good. So I'm leaning towards not having that in. Portugal, I think, is maybe too just pleasant to qualify. And if it does, then for me, I think that will be 4 songs in a row that are qualifying, and that doesn't happen very often. And actually, considering there's Georgia, Serbia, Iceland, and Moldova, that means that 7 out of a block of 8, 7 out of 8 would go through. So I think that's quite unlikely. But it's not going to be Austria. It's not going to be Austria. The Czech Republic staging is too disappointing, and it's too early in the running order for it to go through. So I'm just going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say Portugal. It's going to be wrong. Portugal is my 10th one.
That's it for this episode, and next episode will be when we actually have some Eurovision to review. After the first semi-final, we'll be back on this channel to unpack the semi-final. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and you can follow us on Instagram at reveurovision. And yeah, thank you for watching.